I'm Lance with Brando Consulting. I am pleased to welcome Ian Benoliel with OrderTime, or we can say with Number Cruncher, who is going to show us their product, OrderTime. I've been really impressed with OrderTime. I've been investigating and getting to know OrderTime for, I don't know, almost a year now, not quite yet a year. And I've been so impressed with it. I've already been referring people to OrderTime. We've done several demos together. And so I'm excited to introduce Ian and OrderTime to you.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for being on our channel, Ian. So in this demo, what we're going to do is Ian's going to show us sales order screen and talk a little bit about how OrderTime can capture sales. He's going to show us the work order screen or the manufacturer order screen. I may be using the wrong terms. OrderTime may, and then we'll see purchasing and purchase order fulfillment, mobile warehouse management as well. So we're going to take a look at the mobile device as well and see receiving and picking, and just kind of do a 30-40 minute video. We'll do it just really short, 10 to 12 minutes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
So let's take a look. Show us how OrderTime captures sales, all the different ways that OrderTime captures sales.
So a picture tells 1,000 words, Lance. So this is our what's called our sales cycle, which is at help@ordertime.com, and you can go to the sales cycle. And this diagram basically tells us a lot of information on the flow of the sales module. We can start off with leads. Obviously, it can turn into customers, quotes, and sales orders. We can then fulfill the sales order, and it goes into a shipping document, which is a packing slip, invoice, you can call it that, and then it synchronizes with QuickBooks. So that's kind of
what integrates with OrderTime.
Go ahead.
Show us what marketplaces, what e-commerce sites integrate with OrderTime.
So that's a good question, Lance. There's a lot of ways to create a sales order, one of which is the integration with our e-commerce like Shopify. We also have integrations with EDI. You can create an integration with Zapier, for example, or you can just use our API. You can also import a sales order with CSV. You can convert it from a quote. So there's a lot of ways. In terms,
so it kind of seems like OrderTime has light CRM. I see there you have leads that convert to customers. That's a pretty cool feature. We don't see a whole lot in this industry. Right. Convert quotes to sales orders. That's pretty common. So what do you have a list of?
Yeah, I can show you that right now. So yeah, I can show you that right now.
E-commerce integrations. There we go. Yeah.
So here is kind of the full list of all the e-commerce integrations that we can add. We have Magento. Ship for Shop used to be 3D Cart. The popular ones are Shopify. And we recently added these last three: Squarespace, OpenCart, and Wix is becoming more and more popular. Awesome. As well as that, the commerce integrations, we also have the EDI integrations. So here we have SPS Commerce, which is kind of the bigger one. True Commerce is called, it was called High Jump, and they acquired actually B2B Gateway. So that's also available. We also have integration with a company called Synkware. And through either EDI or Synkware, they can also integrate with things like Walmart or Amazon, things like that as well. So there's a lot of connectors that we have to import orders into a sales order system. Of course, a sales rep can also go on the road. We have a lot of wholesalers, sales reps go on the road with our system, and they capture an order and a payment right there as well at the client site. We do have roles and restrictions on sales reps in terms of which customers they can see and which sales orders they can see.
You bring up a good point. OrderTime is completely online. That was one thing that impressed me about OrderTime, is you're kind of winning the race to online. What impressed me with OrderTime is the previous desktop app is now fully in the cloud and has been since 2018. So it's had some time to mature and get all the little intricate features in there as well. So show us how a sales order is created.
Yeah, so the main list kind of your Bible of sales. If we go to our sales dashboard, all these are reports. You can make reports. And then here you have your quick links where you can go to the customer list and the quote list and the sales orders. Customers are synchronized with QuickBooks bi-directionally, so you can add a customer. Or so this is our sales orders list here. And as you can see here, I have a lot of what's called saved views. So let's say I just want to look at my open orders. So that's one view, or ones that are ready to ship. Basically, ready to ship is a status that I created. And it's a good way to kind of, let's say someone in the shipping department needs to just see the specific sales orders that are ready to ship. They can just go to their save view and do that. So to
That's
create
a positive thing about IMS is it gives us visibility, right? That's one reason people buy inventory software, is to get this sort of overall visibility of the status of our orders.
Right. And you make a good point, Lance, because some people come to us and they say, we just want inventory. And my response to them is inventory and order management are so closely related. You can't have one without the other.
I tend to agree. Comment below if you have a different opinion. We're open to it. So
I'm
yeah,
gonna go.
that's kind of something I've grown to be an opinion of as well.
All right,
Entering
so
orders and tracking orders is really closely tied into inventory tracking. So yeah, let's show us how a sales order is created, and then we'll go to work orders.
All right, we're going to start from the sales orders list. Although we can start from the customer itself, we can also click on here. So there's a number of ways to create a sales order, but I'm just going to do that. I can drop this down and find the customers this way, or I can just start typing in the kind of the first little part of the customer name, and I find that customer name. The address will show up and all the default things like your terms, your sales rep. You can enter a custom address here. It won't overwrite whatever address. You got all the price levels that come either from QuickBooks Desktop, or you'll create your own price levels. And we have pretty good advanced models like volume discounts and percentages off costs, things like that.
That kind of brings up a good point. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much, but I'll just ask a quick question. When you first connect OrderTime to QuickBooks, does it pull over all your customers and vendors?
It does. It
Awesome.
Pulls over all the customers, vendors, and optionally your price levels as well.
Awesome. So it looks like we selected a client that didn't have any address information. So we can just pretend like these guys have address information.
Exactly. A lot of memo fields. So we have 3 default memo fields, and then for each order, you can create up to 30 user-defined custom fields of different types, and they can be made required, and they can also be calculated fields.
Custom fields are good. I tell people, if you don't know what a custom field does, that means you don't need it. But if you can think of a million things for it, then it's great. You need it. So, all right, yeah, let's add some items.
Yeah, so we're gonna add an item here, my favorite item called 112, and it has a price. I'm gonna add a quantity of 2. Now it says 2 eaches. We can also do unit of measure conversion. If I add just a little something a little bit more advanced, I can add a configurable bill of materials, and this allows me to configure a bill of materials as well. So there's an advanced configurations for bills of material.
Nice.
So we have 2
I like
items.
the pictures too. I don't know if anyone else just was gravitated towards that, but that's something that people are wanting more and more of these days. Just a quick photo to help us assure that, okay, I selected the right part.
Exactly. And those photos can also be printed on the form templates.
I think this is a good time to mention something that you mentioned to me earlier in one of our previous conversations, that your sort of claim to fame, especially with your previous software, is when you created your previous software back in 1999, I think it was, it was primarily for manufacturing and work orders. So I think it's good to mention right here, when you just brought this up and said, oh, we have this configurable BOM, that's kind of a big deal. Not very many other inventory software programs have that. So I think you're going to see as Ian goes through this demo that OrderTime does have a strong presence with manufacturing. Quick question for you. On the sales order screen, when you enter the sales order,
Mhm.
can you create a custom work order just from complete scratch?
You can. Yeah.
I kind of thought you were going to say yes.
Yeah. So there's
We
a
don't need
couple.
to do it, but
Right. Mhm.
we've got a lot to go over.
Sure.
Let's take a look at work orders now, shall we?
Sure. Absolutely. So let's take a look at I always like to start off with the work order flow because it kind of allows us to see the big picture before we dive into the weeds.
Sure.
So there's a certain type of item in OrderTime called an assembly item. And that assembly item, similar to if you're familiar with QuickBooks, has a bill of materials. Now our bill of materials is a lot more advanced than that. And I'm going to show you a little bit about that right now.
So an assembly item is the item you're creating or manufacturing.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Correct. And so once you create an assembly item, so we're going to go and we're going to find, let's say, one of those assembly items that we were working on. This is an assembly item. And as you can see, it has a lot of detail in the item itself, like the inventory, multiple locations, multiple bins. This one happens to have serial numbers as well, or lot numbers.
So what we're looking at the bottom of the screen here are all the locations that this part currently resides in and the status of the quantities, it looks like, and the quantity on hand. Is that what we're looking at?
Yep. And now, the quantity on hand, the lot number, the expiration date, which we can keep track of, and just kind of a lot of information about the statuses of each item, each lot number. You can see here some summary information, the picture again, and then if you click here, you get to the bill of materials. And now we have the bill of materials. As you can see, it's a kind of a living, breathing thing. It has some pricing information here because this is where you kind of set up your components. And by adding up all these costs over here, you get a total cost. You should also consider including non-part items like labor or overhead burden. And if you sum up all those costs, you get this value here, and it's very easy to kind of play with the prices then at that point, and you can take a look at your margins and your markup. So
you bring up a good point here. Before we create an assembly, we need a bill of material in the system, right? I'm sure you can create custom assemblies on the fly, but the most common workflow is previous to creating your workflow, we create all the bills of material in the system. And tell me this, OrderTime, does it have any limit on how many sub bombs you can have?
It does not. There's no limit to the depth. We also have the concept of a step, which is basically each step is like splitting up the bill of materials into little chunks. And the steps are used to plan capacity. It's going to be used in our routing application in the mobile. So the steps will become kind of like an operation. You can also do, for example, outsource steps at a different location.
I was just going to ask you about that because that's a common thing with small businesses is they might not be ready to do all the manufacturing in-house yet. A lot of my clients outsource at least one piece of their manufacturing to someone else who does, passivating or hard coating or heat treating really well. So
exactly. And that's a service item. That's a service item that should be added to the bill of material.
Yeah. Awesome. No, this was a good point. So yeah, let's take a look at creating a work order.
Yeah. So again, every transaction type has a list, just like the sales orders, items. Work orders also have a list where you can kind of see different views of the same work order. You can see a lot of columns here. When we create a linked work order, which we can from the sales order, you'll see all the sales order and the customer PO information right on the sales order itself. I mean, on the work order itself, because we can link this is a very important point, link the sales order to the work order. So we know that this particular build is for a specific sales order. But if I wanted to create a new work order, I would just go ahead and select the item. Okay. And here I can select which version of the bill of materials, because we can have multiple versions of the same bill of materials. I'm going to select the default, which is my second version. And here I'm going to put in the quantity that I want to produce, any notes or any instructions that I want to give the people to do. And you can see here the promise date is about 15 days ahead of time, because we have the build time that is in this item is 15 days. The build time. Okay. So that's why when we start the work order, it takes 15 days to complete. That's why the promise date is now 15 days. So then we take the work order and now we copy the bill of materials to this work order. And now, Lance, we can make any changes to this work order, delete, change the quantity per, add new components, add new steps, and it only affects this particular work order.
That's great. And I like how you mentioned before you just created this work order that typically the process wouldn't be to manually create a work order, but to ask the system what work orders you should create.
Correct.
Right? That's something a lot of small businesses don't realize. The power of inventory software is if your inventory is accurate and all your orders are in the system, then the software is actually smart enough to say, hey, this is what you should manufacture based on your supply and demand and your forecasted quantity on hand.
Right.
So I'm glad you mentioned that.
So we have this build point, which is kind of analogous to a reorder point. Okay. So you would put that in as a reorder point, and if it drops below this, we can create a screen called the reorder analysis that would identify any of those, and you would go ahead and run this, for example, and this scenario, which is called the reorder analysis. So what is this telling us? It says, look ahead a week, or you can do a month or a quarter or whatever you want in here. And then, so let's do a month. And then here, show us anything just that there's not enough inventory. We have sales order open. We can also do below the reorder point. Well, let's just do that. And we run that. We can run this at any time, because now that we have the scenario, we don't have to rerun it again. So we'll let that run. And now it's finished. So now we go into it and it'll give us a listing. In this case, 2 items here, and it's giving us a suggestion of how much we should create. It's giving us based on the following. It's saying how much is available, how much we already have on work order, and how much is required. Required is what's on sale of data. It's just going through, it's seeing what's on order, and here it is. So now we have this analysis, it's run. Now, a lot of these items don't have the preferred vendors because it's just a test, but typically a customer would set up multiple vendors and they can select which item will have which vendor will have the best price or has availability.
That's awesome. That's powerful. Back on the previous screen that you were on, it looked like you could select the vendor on the fly almost. Am I understanding that right?
You can.
Under the vendor column right there?
Yep. When you start ordering, you can select which vendors you want to do it on the fly.
Wow. That's awesome. That's powerful. Okay. So let's create some purchase orders and show us what a purchase order print preview looks like too.
Sure did. So I'm just going to do it really quickly, just create a purchase orders for some of these. Again, I just go create order. All right. The order was created. So there is the first one. Let's go to that. Let's go to that one. And that now that it's in this screen, I can change the quantity. Let's say I want to round it up there. I could have changed it on the other screen. And let's add another item. Now this item, this over here is the vendor's part number. All right. So we have both part numbers on here. All right, so we have our part number, which is the item, and we have the vendor's part number. And if I don't know it or whatever, I can leave it blank or I can type it in on the fly, like so.
Oh,
Okay, now we do have the functionality for approving a purchase order. And in certain companies, there's an approval process that a purchase order needs to go by. So we have this security feature here that if it's not approved, it says unapproved. And so a user would need to approve a purchase order. And you can put, restrictions on the roles of those purchase orders to decide who is going to have the right. And once you do that, then you have your preview here. All right. Now that's not a very good one. Let's try this one.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah. All right. So here this actually has some images on it. So different fields, the weight fields and stuff like that.
And I see above, you can add your logo.
You can add your logo. You can customize all this. The interface is very similar to QuickBooks Online in terms of customizing these form templates. And from here, we can DocuSign. So we have an integration with DocuSign.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
and
cool.
we have customers that use that for quotes. What happens? They send it via DocuSign, and it comes and once it's signed, it attaches to the order, so the customer can see a signed order right in the attachment. But most of the time, people will just save and email that. And they'll add whatever, if they have a contact, I'll just send it to myself here. They'll pick one of their templates. In this case, we use our purchase order template, so we don't have to keep on typing the same thing over and over again. I send that out to the vendor. The status automatically changes to sent. We attach a copy of the purchase order that's been sent, and as well in our activity history, we see the actual email that was sent.
Okay, I like that.
And then in terms of our CRM these days, you got to follow up with your suppliers because of all the issues. So I like to kind of put in myself a little task here, but let's say the next day to follow up with the vendor. So when we go to our home
Where does
screen,
that task pop up? Oh, you're about to show us. You read my mind.
we see that task right there, and we just navigate right back to the purchase order. Look at the task. Let's say we complete the task. We write our notes here, and we close the task, and that too goes in the activity history, so we can see all the notes and all the activity, either internal or between the vendor for this purchase order.
That's kind of a CRM feature there. That's impressive.
Thank you.
So I want to see receiving next. I think that's the next step, right? And I'm kind of personally a big believer in the principle, the person that touches the inventory should be the person that records the inventory in real time. That's the best way to accomplish accurate inventory. And so I kind of gravitate towards the mobile device when it comes to receiving. Can we look at that? Can we look at the mobile device and see this purchase order received? I know we can receive it on the big screen,
but we're going to try to do it on the small screen. Here we go.
Yeah.
There's OrderTime mobile. You download this for free. You just log in. Okay. All right, here we go. Back here, we're going to type or scan in the purchase order, and we just go here and we start scanning our items. So there's one, and then we just decide which bin we're going to put it in. You can see the default bin right there is called floor. I can put it in there, or I can put it in any one of my bins that I want. Now here, I have a scan which is doing one at a time. You can see it doing one at a time, but I can change that. So I'm just going to go into user preferences here. And when I scan, let's do it manual. So that's a good way of doing it. There's a couple of other options that we can put in. Now that I scan, this time I'm going to put it into a bin called G3, and I'll put a 9. So what I did is I split this between two bins.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that might happen if we're managing back orders and one needs to go into stock and the other one needs to go into the shipping area to get shipped right back out.
Yep. So in this case, we received out of the 100, out of the 500 we ordered, we only received 400 of them. So it's a partial receipt there. So now we're gonna, so there it is. So this item, we put it in the floor. This item, we split it between the floor and G3.
Cool.
Okay. So now all we do is check that back in and it creates a receiver. So the receiver number that we're going to be looking for is 1111.
Okay. Nice. Okay, so we received it into stock. The inventory is in stock now. We use the mobile device, so it's immediate. None of this giving the packing list to someone in the office to enter in a day later. That's a sure recipe for inaccurate inventory. So I would think the next step is to enter the vendor's invoice to fully close out the purchase order. Will you show us that?
Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. So here now is that receiver.
Nice.
Okay. As you can see, we only get, and there's still an open quantity. So that now I can close the rest of this order if I want.
Okay.
All right. So here you would put in the invoice number. Right? There's the invoice number from the vendor. Other details if you want, custom fields, you know, whatever else, the terms, if those are missing. Maybe you also got some shipping charges as part of the invoice. So you would put that in here. And that would add it to the cost of this. It wouldn't put it into a separate account. It would add it to the cost of the inventory.
Right. Landed cost.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then I would change the status to received. And it would go, and at that point, we then go into, at that point, it would get synchronized with QuickBooks and a bill would be created and the user would write a check out of QuickBooks.
Perfect. Perfect. Question for you. Can you reconcile multiple receivers on one invoice? Like sometimes the vendor will invoice you for multiple receivers.
You can receive multiple POs on one receiver.
Oh, okay.
So you just check out more than one PO from the same vendor.
That's awesome, because that's a pretty common workflow these days with purchasing overseas. You get the whole container. Container usually consists of multiple purchase orders. So that's awesome. You can receive multiple purchase orders onto one receiver. Right. And then usually the vendor's invoice represents the receiver.
Right. So in the program itself, you can do that like so. This is just a bunch of purchase orders. And I can continue and it will kind of receive all the purchase orders into one receiver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we got the inventory in there. We entered the vendor's invoice. It exported to QuickBooks. So QuickBooks is in sync, the inventory and the AP. I think we're ready to close out. I think you used the word process, process a work order, which I imagine we first need to pick for that work order before we can process the work order. So will you show us picking a work order?
Sure. So this step can be done at any time. And some people do it the minute they create a work order. Some people will do it after the fact from the work order list or inside the work order. But the first thing we want to do is we want to have the system kind of tell us where the inventory is. So we click this button called allocate.
Now I see you're on the work order screen. You've already selected a work order.
Right.
One thing I've seen with some of these companies is before they know which work order they can start, they have to first see what's available. One problem some companies have is they start a work order and then they realize they don't have enough available. So I love what you're showing us now. You're on the entire list of work orders and you're allocating a group to see what's available first,
Right.
so they can then decide which ones they can start based on availability. This is what I wanted to see first.
So basically, I did an allocation across the board. Some of these are still waiting for stock. This one, though, is ready.
Perfect.
This one has been completely allocated and there's nothing remaining.
Awesome. So now we can pick this one.
Yep.
And
This one we can now
Start working
pick.
on
So we can take our, I mean, we don't have to print anything. This could be on a mobile device, on the phone, as a browser, as a one of these Surface things, like a tablet. You know, a lot of people will do that as well. We are coming out with an app, but basically, or they can just print the work order. You know, of course, they can also print the work order.
can we go to the mobile device now and pick this work order
No.
using the mobile device?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Next month.
Next month.
Next
Cool.
month.
Okay,
Next month.
that's
All right.
coming.
Yeah.
So work order picking is currently on the main screen.
On
but
the main
next
screen.
month, it will be on the mobile device.
Correct. So basically, to finish this work order, we've allocated it. We could at this point put it into production. All right. So we put it into production and basically they're working on it. They're going ahead and they're working on this work order. They're putting the pieces together. They might be writing some notes, you know, some log entries. They might be adding some time entries. When they're finished, they would come in and add the quantity. Now, in this case, I have to add the quantity manually because this is a lot number. So I'm going to add a lot number. All right. If the item does not have a lot number, you can just change the status to finished, like so. And that's, or close, and that's all you would have to do.
Okay.
That's completing a work order. So at this point, the raw materials would be decremented. You can see the values are already starting to build up here. And we're going to see very shortly that the value amount of the work order is also going to be populated. Okay. Once the ledger picks in, just a few minutes after that. So this is now a work order. And if I look at this, I will have a lot number, this lot number. And just to show you something, you know, about our traceability about lot numbers, we have this lot number list here where we can kind of search for a lot number and get its genealogy. You know, in this case, it's only one transaction, but if we were to sell this lot number, we'd see the customer invoice here as well.
So you can manage recalls and run historical reports and whatnot.
Exactly.
And of course, you don't have to do lot number tracking. That's optional. You can either turn it on or off
Per item.
Per item. Yeah. Awesome. I think we're ready to see sales order fulfillment.
All righty.
Now that was just a one level work order. In this demo, we're not going to get into multi-level work orders, but like you say, there's no limit to the number of multi-level work orders you can do.
That's right.
So,
all right. So again, with, let's say this sales order over here, it's ready to ship. I could again use my mobile device to scan it
I
out.
want to go back to the same concept we did with the work order. I really like that, where you start with the entire list of sales orders that can be picked.
Okay.
You run that allocated tool to see what's available to pick, and then you decide what to pick.
So we have this.
I think that's a strong feature.
We have this allocated. This is a list of all the allocated work orders. As you can see here, I have, sales orders. As you can see here, we have all or partial or none.
Okay.
Right.
And by allocated, that means you already ran the calculation. The system already looked at what can be fulfilled.
That's right.
And Um,
I'm going to run an allocation now on just these 3 purchase orders. So I'm going to allocate. Work sales orders.
awesome.
All right.
Yeah, this
so
would have helped one of my other clients that were struggling with, the system that they were using was showing them that everything was available. But then after they picked the first few, the others started to show that they weren't available. But what you just did was you ran the calculation to see, okay, according to first come, first serve, these are available and these aren't. So you selected a group to just sort of pre-allocate. This really helps with freight pickup and organizing, large pickups.
So you can
picking
just
like 50 orders a day,
right. You can decide whether you're going to ship the partials. We do have a preference there to either allow or deny partial shipments on an order by order basis or by customer.
That's awesome. That brings up another thing that a lot of people need and like and ask for is any sort of holding orders for payment.
Absolutely. We have
you're
that
nodding
feature
your
as
head,
well.
so-
We have that feature as well. I don't know if you want me to kind of get into that right now.
No, just explain it to us. You don't need to show us. Just tell us how it works.
So we have a couple of features for that. We can put a customer on hold, and in which case you can create a sales order, you just can't ship it.
Okay.
Can't allocate it. That's one. Then we've kind of worked on the terms where we've added something called a payment type, which is a kind of a business rule. Do we take the entire payment on the sales order? Do we take the entire payment on the shipping? Do we take partial on the sales order and partial on shipping? Or is it just AR credit?
Cool.
And we can put certain blocking mechanisms on the sales order and on things like that, pending payment.
That'll help a lot of companies.
Yeah.
A lot of people need that.
Right.
So, okay. Yeah, let's pick this. Should we decide what to pick and then use the mobile device to pick these sales orders?
Sure. So I can pick this one here if we want. I can pick all of these. I can pick all of them at the same shot. Should we do that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's a great demonstration to group pick multiple orders at the same time.
Okay. All right, so let's do that. Let's get back on. I'm going to stop sharing here.
There we are. We're on the mobile device.
So this time we're going to select sales orders to pick.
Awesome.
All right.
Here's a list of sales orders.
Well, that's one of them. That's number 2. Number 3 will be. Now I can scan these as well if I had like a pick or whatever. So
I was going to ask you that. So the pick ticket has the sales order barcode on it. Okay.
There they are.
So these are the 3 sales orders we're going to pick simultaneously.
Right now, I don't have to worry about which sales orders I'm picking. I just have to worry about the item. The system will automatically. So if there's an item here that is on multiple sales orders, like this one here, it doesn't matter. All I have to worry about is picking.
And will it walk you through the path of fewest footsteps through the warehouse?
Yes. I mean, you can either sort it by the item name or the bin. This pick list. I have it sorted by the item name, but I can also sort it by the bin.
Okay.
And if I look here, I can also see the bins. Let me put that on top here. This little thing. I can also see the bins that they're in. You know?
Yeah.
Now this one also has a lot number. Yeah. So I would have to not only pick the item, but I would have to pick the lot number as well.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's pick it.
Oh. That's it. So as you can see, it picked for both of them at the same time,
Okay,
both sales orders at the same time.
awesome.
You see there, I went right to that one. Right?
Okay.
Obviously, if you had the barcode, you wouldn't have all these things that you would have to type in manually.
Okay, so we're all done picking. It's now uploading. So you had a little upload sync. It syncs with OrderTime. And now it's ready to be packed and shipped. Would be the next step. I see you have ship docs to pack there.
So you see these 3 ship docs right here?
Yeah. So we're on a screen that's called ship docs, and it's showing us a list of everything that's been picked. Is that right?
This is the 3 sales orders that we just picked. Exactly.
Awesome. Awesome.
So let's take a look at one. So this is the one with this lot number, this crazy lot number. I want to
Okay.
got this one over here. And the resin. Got this one over here. The metal. So there's one.
So we're finished picking. Now the screen that we're looking at is called the ship doc screen. And on here, we see a list of everything that's been picked. It wouldn't be on this list unless it was picked, right? At least.
Well, the status is picked. There's sometimes that you're processing. There's some that's already shipped. There's some that's already closed. So again, you can make yourself one of these saved views with everything that's picked. So everything that's picked, basically now, the next stage is either you're going to pack it or you're going to go to shipping label type of deal.
Beautiful. Okay. And so the next step I would think after it's been picked is to print out a shipping label, put it in the box, weigh it. If we're talking about parcel, if we're talking about freight on a pallet, then we may want to print out a bill of lading.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe a couple of different directions here. Will you show us printing out a shipping label or just sort of describe it to us?
Well, shipping label, it depends on whether you just want a plain shipping label or a UPS shipping label. So if we look at the sales flow, after the ship doc is created, then we have an integration with ShipStation or others.
Perfect.
And you would go into ShipStation and generate the label, and it would write back to the ship doc the tracking number and optionally the shipping charge as well, with potential of giving a markup on the shipping.
Awesome. Okay.
Once that's done, then when the status is shipped, optionally can go into QuickBooks at that point, and it will write back to your web card, hey, this order's been shipped, or EDI, an advanced shipping notice.
Perfect. And then that would automatically fulfill or close out the sales order in OrderTime.
That's correct.
And then at that time, would an invoice in QuickBooks be created if it hadn't been paid for yet already?
An invoice would be created but you can also take a payment in OrderTime and it'll synchronize the payment with QuickBooks as well.
Perfect.
Because a lot of the times, let's say, workers or people that, let's say, are customer service, they may not be in QuickBooks at all.
Yeah.
So you want to give them a way to, collect the payment. This is so really it's a good way to separate, roles. If accountants are in QuickBooks, everybody else is in OrderTime.
Awesome. So I think that really is the last step there. If we're just demoing OrderTime, obviously there's other steps in QuickBooks that we don't need to demo in this demo. This is an OrderTime demo, not a QuickBooks demo, to see how to pay invoices and or receive payments for invoices and pay vendor invoices. We can do another video for that for QuickBooks. But no, I think this completes the demo. We created a sales order. We showed the items and the bills of material and created a work order. We created purchase orders and showed how the system works with that. Take us to just sort of the dashboard screen.
Sure. So this is example of a purchase order dashboard screen, sales order dashboard screen. These are reports. These are all driven by reports that can be swapped out.
What's on the home screen?
The home screen is the calendar view. So we do have a lot of people that use the calendar view to schedule, let's say, work, installation. So for example, this one over here, we got something on this sales order that we scheduled. Then you also see all your open tasks. You can hide this. In the future version, we're going to put more kind of stuff on the home screen, more dashboardy type things like, you got 5 open orders today. But a lot of that can also be done by the individual dashboards. So this is the individual dashboard, kind of a visual. And then over here on the left-hand side, you kind of have like,
or your right-hand side, your other
sorry, the right-hand side where you got, let's say, the orders due today, right?
Yeah.
So these are all the orders that let's just do this one. All right.
Can we go back to the calendar for a second? So on the home screen, OrderTime has a calendar that will show what? Sales orders, purchase orders, and work orders?
Anything that you want, you can create an event and you can associate it with anything.
So even tasks
Sure.
can be on the calendar. So that's great. That helps with MRP, I think, because your sales orders have a scheduled ship date, your work orders have a start and end date, your purchase orders have an ETA. So this might help with MRP. Okay, so another cool feature OrderTime has is this calendar. We're looking at this calendar here, and as we mentioned before, one of the benefits of inventory software is visibility. OrderTime provides you with that visibility with showing you the sales orders and the purchase orders and the work orders all on this calendar right here. Will you take us to the sales order dashboard here, Ian? Just to wrap up finally. So far we've shown you sales order creation. We went over the items and all the features involved with the items and the bills of material. And we showed work order creation and purchase order creation and how OrderTime can make recommendations on what to purchase and what to manufacture. And then you got to see the mobile device and use the mobile device for receiving and picking. And finally, we closed up by demonstrating the integration with ShipStation and packaging and all that. So I think that's it. That's a wrap for this OrderTime demo. Please be sure to watch the next demo if you'd like, or if you haven't seen it already. We're going to do a quick overview of the entire OrderTime system in like 10 to 12 minutes. If you want to just show it to your boss or something and say, hey, here's a quick view. So Ian, thank you so much for
You're very welcome. Thank you.
for doing this demo for us and being a guest on our YouTube channel. I hope to do more of these, and I look forward to doing more of these with you. And love what we see. I'm very impressed with OrderTime.
Thank you very much, Lance. I much appreciate it.